Greg Dell here with attorney Cesar Gavidia, and we're going to discuss Northwestern Mutual disability claims and specifically focus on reviews of Northwestern Mutual. And Cesar, we have reviews on our website for all the disability companies, specifically Northwestern Mutual, which is one of the actually smaller companies. As you know, they offer group policies and individual disability policies. We've assisted hundreds of claimants on both individual and group. And in this video, I want to talk about our opinions about Northwestern Mutual. It's great that we have a website where people can come and put reviews, which they have, and that's seen on the particular page where this video is living on our website. And the reviews are great because people get to share their experiences, whether it's positive or negative, so that claimants of Northwestern Mutual don't feel like they're alone out there, and that they also have a space to share experiences so that other people can either learn from that to protect their benefits, prevent a claim from being denied, and also just sometimes people just want to just vent because they have a level of frustration, or they want to say something nice. Unfortunately, with reviews, it's more often a negative than a positive. But Northwestern certainly is one of the companies that probably goes both ways and may lean more towards the positive with reviews. So it's going to be interesting to hear your opinions today. We'll go back and forth a little bit and try to identify some of the things that are happening with Northwestern Mutual policy language, the different ways in which they work that are leading people towards having the views in which they have about Northwestern Mutual. So question I always like to ask when dealing with an opinion on reviewing a particular disability insurance company is, when a claimant calls you, no matter what's going on, and they say they have Northwestern Mutual, what are your thoughts?
Well, I know that assuming that they've, depending obviously on what stage of the claim they're in. I mean, if they're calling me and they want to apply, and they're seeking to apply for benefits or just a consultation to discuss this issue going on with them and how it's been affecting their work, and now they've had this policy with Northwestern, and running them through kind of the terms and conditions and definitions. So there's certainly a lot of things we could discuss about the policies themselves. But for someone who's usually calling us, most of the time it's someone who's already applied, they've been approved by Northwestern. But the thing you have to understand in particular about Northwestern Mutual is just because you've been approved doesn't mean that you're being paid throughout the duration of your whole disability claim. They're a company that, while that initial review may be quite comprehensive, that's all that is initial. Because after that, they're going to continue to require you to provide them with updated claim forms, updated attending physician statements and records, documents. They're going to want to talk to you, and they're often going to be talking to your treatment providers, okay? So they're a company that I think, although you said, fall on the positive side, and that's because they approve a lot of claims on the onset, but then also they are a company that will, continuously investigate, review, kind of test the disability claim itself.
Yeah, so what I would say is, first of all, they're a smaller company, like I mentioned, and you should never assume that just because they approve you that you're going to stay on claim. Because they're smaller, because they have employees that have been with them for a while, I feel that their employees are well trained to execute the philosophy of Northwestern Mutual in claims handling. I personally, from my experience, is that Northwestern Mutual is not one of the companies that's first going to look for a reason to deny. They're going to look at all of the evidence, and they're going to try to review it fairly. I wouldn't say that about a lot of claims. You may not like the outcome of what you're going to get with them. They definitely have the resources to dig in and find the inconsistencies and then get doctors or nurses or any other medical professionals or vocational consultants to back up their position if they have a bad taste in their mouth for that particular person, or if their goal is in that particular claim to say, look, we don't think there's enough here, so let's continue to get doctors to support that there's not enough here. But at the same token, if there's real evidence there and someone comes to them and goes, I don't think this supports disability, I've seen Northwestern Mutual question that. to say, well, why isn't that enough, even amongst their own experts? And I really just think that comes because they're smaller and more experienced. And you know about that because when you deal with these other bigger companies, whether it's a Unum, a Hartford, a Prudential, New York Life, these big companies, a lot of employee turnover, claim reps are handling 100+ claims, smaller dollar amounts usually. Northwestern tends to be a little bit higher dollar amounts, clearly on the individual side. They deal with a lot of professionals and business owners, and those are higher dollar amounts. Certainly on the group it can be lower, but when a Northwestern Mutual claim rep gets claimed and has that attention to detail, they're going to have more time to potentially give a claimant the benefit of the doubt, whereas many other companies just say lack of evidence, denied. So I think that's the source of why you get more positive than negative with Northwestern Mutual. But to your position, how you said that yes, they could approve you initially, if you slack on your, in the presentation of your claim in Northwestern Mutual, you'll get denied. So to that end, what should a claimant with Northwestern Mutual specific be doing to prevent themselves from getting denied benefits?
Right, and it goes back to what you said. Just because you're approved doesn't mean there's any guarantee that you're going to remain approved. And you can't let your guard down. I mean, you have to be really diligent about your ongoing medical care or treatment or visits with your doctor, because sometimes and so often someone's dealing with a condition that there isn't really much treatment for. Okay, they could prescribe anti-inflammatories, pain meds, PT, which you've tried that hasn't really resulted in any really good results for you. And your doctor may not want to see you but once a year. But I wouldn't recommend following that regimen, because if you're only seeing that doctor once a year, he's not going to be very familiar with you or your case, your conditions. They certainly may not even feel comfortable responding to Northwestern Mutual's attending physician questionnaire, where it's really comprehensive and they're asking them not just what your diagnoses are, they want to know how objectively it causes limitations for you. Subjectively, what are your limitations? It's really getting into some specific detail about your conditions and your limitations. So you really have to stay diligent. You have to stay on top of your treatment. Don't see, and what I recommend is seeing your doctors every 3 to 4 months at minimum.
Right.
And that shouldn't be anything they have a problem with, because they're going to be paid for the visit. They're not seeing you free. You can be following up, keeping a log of your symptoms, weekly, daily, just something that you could present to them so that they could see if things have gotten worse, if they've progressed. And also that's something that really makes your claim very credible, makes your complaints very credible. What activities perhaps are inducing certain things, triggering certain symptoms. That's really important to get into. But just really staying on top of that. And then also, when they request information, you don't want to delay responding. You don't want to delay it for weeks or months. Usually when they send you forms or an update request, which whether it's every 6 months or every year, which some people think, oh, well, they're only having me report once a year. That is a recipe for complacency, because they maybe haven't picked up your file in a year, or maybe they have, and you don't realize that they've been kind of doing an ongoing review through those 12 months. But there's a lot of opportunity there for things to become stagnant, stale, and complacency to set in. And you don't want that to happen, whether it's with you, with your doctors. You don't want that to occur. But in terms of responding back to them, they usually give you a window of 30 days. And if you don't get that information back to them within the time frame they want it, that might trigger a more extensive review of the claim, or maybe it interrupts the benefits in some way. So that's important to keep in mind.
Right, and when you go to the doctor, you talked about a log, but you got to make sure the doctor's reading those issues that you're having into the record. And if the doctor has limitations or restrictions for you, even though doctor will always tell you, don't do this, don't do that. And a lot of times it's, don't do the stuff that bothers you. But you need to tell the doctor, look, I'm okay sitting in a restaurant, going to a movie, going grocery shopping, but when I get home I'm uncomfortable, I have to lay down, or I can't stand for more than an hour, or I can't sit without changing my position, walking around for 10 minutes and then coming back, or once I start to get uncomfortable, there's no way I could focus in sitting at my desk and doing my work. I can go back and sit, but I'm totally out of it. I'm fatigued, my thought process isn't all there. I can't multitask, I can't balance. There's no way I could be accountable to say, oh, I have a meeting in an hour and then I'm going to be there, because I might be there in body, but I'm not there in mind. So the doctors need to have these things documented, because I always tell the clients, if it's not in the records, it doesn't exist. You might tell Northwestern Mutual, they'll interview you, you could tell them till you're blue in the face, but if the doctor doesn't hear any of this, then Northwestern Mutual is kind of like, are they just telling us what we want to hear, but then they're telling their doctor another thing? So really important, you got to look at those medical records after you go. I know when we represent claimants, we're always reviewing the medical records and we're making sure things are in there. And if they're not in there, we're telling the claimant, look, next time you go, you got to make sure this is in there. And the attending physician statements, the doctors can't just check the box, don't stand for more than an hour, don't sit for more than an hour. They need to write, the things that are going on and basically give an opinion. Do you think this person could commit to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week as a job? Could they be a reliable employee? And if not, why? Those are things that you were saying. So these are little things that we're bringing up, but these are the things that are missing in medical records. Northwestern Mutual knows they're missing because claimants don't know to get them in. And as you stated, doctors don't know. Doctors are not making medical records to be prepared for the insurance company. A medical record is to remind the doctor or whoever else comes in to take care of that patient, this is the history of what's going on with this patient. The point of going to a doctor is, doc, I don't feel well, get me better, or keep me at this level where I can manage my symptoms, don't let it get any worse. And the record is meant to remind the doctor of what they did last time.
Right.
But the insurance companies manipulate that and say, well, it doesn't say this, this, and that. So when you have a disability claim, you have to take almost a forensic approach and have more evidence into the record. So that's the source of frustration. Northwestern Mutual needs that information in order to determine if you're able to do the duties of your occupation or the duties of any occupation, depending upon what the definition of disability is. And that's the balance that has to be walked in these particular claims, and that's the level of frustration that happens and results in denial. So lots of things you can do that we suggested here to get around that, to prevent a denial. And there's so many other scenarios that come up about activities that people either do on their own or don't do by following their doctor, or don't tell their doctor, which leads to denials. And our goal is to keep a Northwestern Mutual claimant paid for as long as they want to get paid. So if you're someone out there who needs help with a Northwestern Mutual claim, feel free to reach out to Cesar or myself. No matter where you live in the country, we're available to assist you. We welcome you to share your experience with Northwestern Mutual so that other people can learn from you and be prepared to protect their benefits in the future. Thank you.